Welcome to Thank You for Your Service on Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. My name is Tom Heiser, and I will be your host. Today we have the honor to talk with Ken Stumpf, who is a Medal Honor recipient from the Vietnam War. Thank you for agreeing to sit down with me, Ken. Appreciate it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Before you joined the military, where were you living, Ken, and what was life like for you at that time?
I grew up in Menasha, Wisconsin. Life was like pretty much normal people. We didn't have an awful lot. In fact, we didn't have any indoor plumbing until I was like 14 years old, so you know where we went potty at. So it was kind of a normal life. Just grew up there, went to school, played some football, played some baseball, but actually everything seemed so simple.
Okay, what were your dreams and aspirations at that time in your life?
Oh wow, that's all I wanted to do was play baseball. Baseball, baseball, baseball. I used to listen to all the Milwaukee Braves baseball games when I was younger. And when I was in high school, I played high school baseball, American Legion baseball, and I played semi-pro baseball. And all I wanted to really do was be a baseball player. Of course, the military cut that short. Of course, I don't think I would have made it anyways. But anyways, I just played baseball until I was 21 years old. Had a couple of years in Menasha Max, and then I was drafted in the Army.
So you got a draft notice, and it was not from a baseball team.
No. Well, you heard the story. Yeah, the story was that 1965, I had played American Legion baseball, high school baseball, and I played 2 years with the Menasha Max semi-pro team. In 1965, in April, I asked, the baseball draft was coming out, and I asked my mom, I said, Mom, open up all my mail, because the baseball draft is coming out. And in my heart, I knew somebody would want me on their team. And so 1 week went by, didn't receive any word. Second week went by, and I came off the 11 to 7 shift. I was working at Bonta's printing company in Menasha. Came off the 11 to 7 shift. I went to bed, 7:30 or whatever in the morning. My mom wakes me up at around 11:30, and she wakes me up and says, "Hey, you've been drafted." And I said, "You're kidding." And I said to her, "By who?" And she said, "The Army." And I said, Mom, the Army don't throw baseballs, they throw hand grenades. So that was I thought first, oh man, I got drafted. I got drafted by a baseball team. But anyway, that's what started my military life in September of '65.
Okay, so you received your draft notice. Where did you have to go for going into the military, and then where did you go for your basic training?
Okay, I went, well, you get your draft notice, whatever, and you go down to Milwaukee and you take all these little tests and take a physical and everything else. And then finally when I was drafted into the Army, I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which a lot of people from Wisconsin went to for their basic training. And from there, it was 8 weeks. My first time away from home. I was homesick, terribly, and then went home for like 30-day leave, and then went out to my advanced infantry training because I was an infantry guy. Went out to Fort Ord, California for advanced, what's called AIT, Advanced Individual Training, but we call it AIT, Advanced Infantry Training. So I went out there for 8 more weeks, and then from there I went home to Menasha, and then I went to my first duty assignment was at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was assigned to a 54th Mechanized Infantry Unit at Fort Knox. In fact, the day I walked in was the day that I had asked the first sergeant where do I find there was a form called I think it was a 1249. It was a personal action form, because I told the person I want to volunteer to go to Vietnam, and what do I need to see about filling out the paperwork? And he said, "You see that clerk over there?" Yes, sir. Yes, Sergeant. Yes, First Sergeant. And then went to see him, filled out a form. This would have been in about April of '66. And by September of '66, when I had 1 year in the Army, I was in Vietnam. This would be now the second year of my 2-year draft.
So you went to Vietnam right away, didn't you not go to any other duty stations?
Oh, no, I went to the 54th Infantry out of advanced infantry training. My first duty assignment after my training was done was with the 54th Bravo Company 54th Infantry, a mechanized infantry unit at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And a mechanized infantry, we drove around in these tracks, Army personnel carriers. And what we would do is our infantry guys, we would put on demonstrations for officer candidates that were going through training. They'd be up on the hills and the bleachers, and we'd be down in the lowlands, and all of a sudden they'd wake us up. Okay, you're ready to start the exercise, and then we'd go and we'd do what infantry guys do, and they had bunkers out there, and we'd do this, we'd do that, and up on top they would do their thing. So I did that, and like I said, I volunteered to go to Vietnam, and I went in September of '66. 1 year in the Army, I was in Vietnam.
Okay, and did you go by ship or did you fly over to Vietnam?
No, I flew, but it was really I went to Oakland, California, and this is where thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people were going through all the processing, getting their shot records up to date, getting their wills made out, getting whatever it might be done, had to be done. And I was in this long, long line. I was like the last guy in this long line of, hundreds upon hundreds. And a drill sergeant came up and he said, "You three," and it was myself and 2 other guys, "you three are flying commercial." And I thought, well, that sounds pretty neat. We're flying commercial to Vietnam. They had 3 seats on United Airlines. And the drill sergeant says, that at that time we carried our personnel records with us, dental record, personnel record. We carried them with us. And he gives them to me. He says, "We're all privates." He said, "You're in charge." Okay, I'm in charge. And so we flew from Oakland to Hawaii, and then we stayed over for about 3 hours. And I told them 2 guys, "Don't you guys dare go nowhere." I said, I'm in charge, I'm in charge. I said, "Stay right around the airport. We're going to leave in about 3 or 4 hours." They did everything I told them to do. And from there, we went from Hawaii, we went to Wake Island. And I'm thinking, I heard about Wake Island in World War II. And if I can remember right, coming into Wake Island, it was like, holy cow, where the heck are we going to land at? We're almost in the ocean. And all of a sudden, we landed, and Wake Island, I guess, is very, very small. It was like a refueling point. But it's a very, very small little island. And I thought, holy God, I wonder who gets stationed out here. But from Wake Island, we went to Guam. And it's all refueling stuff. 3 hours, 4 hours, we stay over. From Guam, we went to Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. Same thing, stay for a few hours. And then from Clark, I landed in United Airlines, landed in Vietnam, in Saigon, Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base. And that was it. Arrived there, got off the plane, was herded down through Saigon in these buses that had all these little wires all over on them, stop grenades from flying in. and went through my processing, and then in Saigon, Don Snoot, and then went up to 3rd Brigade, 25th Division in Central Highlands. That was my duty assignment, first one.
Okay, so you get to Vietnam. Now you're landed.
Mhm.
Fear?
Yes. No, I don't know if it was fear or not. When we were coming down, I was on the seat. I had a window seat, and I was looking out, and I'm thinking, wow, somewhere down there, there's a war going on. And actually, what I expected, I didn't see. I thought I'd see bombs going off, artillery shells coming down, boom, and I'm watching all the action from above. But it's like, that's fantasy. So did I have fear? I was excited. I was more excitement than fear, because I took the fear out of my mind when I volunteered. Fear's gone. You volunteered for this. I'm scared. I'm not going to back down, but I volunteered to go. And when you volunteer, you volunteer. You made a commitment to do whatever you are supposed to do. So the commitment was there. So I was a little bit excited about, wow, Vietnam. I'm in a war zone, but I wasn't like scared. I wasn't going like shakes or bakes or whatever it may be. So.
How old were you when you landed in Vietnam?
I was like 10. I was like 10 days prior to my 22nd birthday, because I got drafted about 10 days prior to my 21st birthday. So I was almost 22 when I arrived in Vietnam.
So in actuality, you were probably one of the older guys.
You're right. I was. There was a lot of younger ones, 17, 18, and there was a lot of them that, volunteered out of high school, and, they're over there. But the strangest thing happened. When I arrived in Vietnam, and I got assigned to my unit. It was like 1 month after I was assigned to my unit. Everybody was killed, wounded, or rotated. And I was a private first class. And Lieutenant Murphy, my platoon leader, asked me if I would take over a squad. Now, a squad leader position in a regular Army unit is a staff sergeant, career guy, E6. And I was an E3, and I told Lieutenant Murphy, sir, I'll take over a squad and I'll do the best I can. And I'll do the best I can. But it, and then on and on it went. But I wasn't in Vietnam but less than a few weeks, and I was already a squad leader of a rifle platoon. So.
Now you said your first duty station was in the Central Highlands around Pleiku, correct?
Pleiku. I went from all the way in the Central Highlands. I went west of Pleiku to the Chupa Mountains along the Cambodian border, down. In fact, that's out there where they had that big battle in the Ai Drang Valley back in '65, where the North Vietnamese came off of the Chupa Mountains. Well, that was my first place where I met my platoon. It was in the Chupa Mountains along the Cambodian border. So we patrolled everywhere. In fact, in '66, I was in the Ai Drang Valley, and not like '65. '65 was brutal. But anyways, then we went all the way over from the west Chupa Mountains all the way over to east along the South China Sea into Bong Song, and then up into Quang Ngai Province. And Quang Ngai Province is where the action was.
Now in Quang Ngai Province, from what I understand, from information I have received, that was the Vietnam or Viet Cong's R&R center.
From what I've been told, the French never went into Quang Ngai Province because it was totally controlled by the Viet Cong, and that was an R&R center for them. But in '67, the leadership decided we're going in. We are going in. It was a brutal area. The booby traps were just unbelievable. So many troops got killed and wounded by booby traps. They were all kids. I mean, little kids that are, 5 years old, throwing grenades at you, and then they'd buggy away, and go hide in a bunker somewhere or go hide in a hole somewhere. But no, it was a very difficult area to fight in because, one, they knew the ropes and they were so dominantly Viet Cong. I mean, Viet Cong, you didn't have to worry about it. You got all your rice, you got water, you got fish, you got everything else. But yeah, from what I heard, it used to be an R&R center back before we got there. And the French never went in there. Not with any type of force.
If you're comfortable talking about the event, could you tell us about what happened that made you eligible for your Medal of Honor?
On the 21st of April of 1967, my platoon lost a lot of men. And so, as it turned out, we normally had an infantry unit, an infantry platoon, 42, 43, 44 is a full size. My platoon ended up with only 14 guys in it because of what happened on the 21st of April. I had 7, including myself, and John Madonich had 7, including himself. And what happened was, we were walking across, we were walking with the command group because our platoon was just shattered. And so we were walking with the command group, which was Captain Cadillo and his RTO, the forward observer, the medic, whatever for the company. We're walking along with him, out in the rice paddy. We're going in one direction. And all of a sudden, Captain Hill said, "Oh, hold up." So we all kind of held up and took a breather. And he got a radio message that a helicopter pilot radioed to him saying, "We killed a Viet Cong in this area and wounded another one. And the other one crawled into a spider hole, which is no more than a hole in the ground." So Captain Gadillo told me, "Specialist Stumpf, take your squad and go see if you can find this downed enemy." And so off I go. And not long after I had left to go, now we're in a rice paddy, I looked behind me and John Madonich was behind me. John Madonich had the only radio. I didn't have a radio. And so what I knew then, okay, I'm going, I got 7. John Madonich is going, he's got 7, plus he's got a radio. So I'm walking point, and I did this, not to boast about it. I just did it. I used to walk point every time my squad was their turn to walk point. I walked point. This time I did it this time is something that every once in a while I'll let somebody else, like Larry White. I'll let, "Hey Larry, I'll take point." And I learned a long time ago. I asked my squad leader, who's our ranger, I said, "Hey, come on, why don't you let me go point?" Wow, he felt almost relieved that somebody else, because he was a squad leader too, a good one, and he always led point. But I had 2 new guys in my squad, Hernandez and Bush. Because of what happened on the 21st, they came into my squad on the 23rd of April given me 7. And so when we were told to try to find the enemy that was down, I walked point. And now, what I'm thinking in my mind, I'm for sure going to do this because of the fact that the other guys that were with me already knew me. But the new guys didn't know me, and they don't know Vietnam. But they're going to find out something about me that right away, that I will not ever let somebody do something that I will not do myself. I'm walking point, so I can show Hernandez and Bush I can do this too. I'm a Spec 4. They're PFCs. But I wanted to show them. Larry White knew where I was coming from. I said, I got point. So I'm walking point, and now in the rice paddy area, now we're spread out good. I told them, okay, we're gonna walk like 15, 20 meters apart because we're in the open area, and it's just something that we do. That's the way we do things. Once we got over to the tree line, we hit a path, and a path, the way I took, I said, well, I could go left or I could go right, because they just said go search, and they had popped smoke. But by the time we got over there, that smoke was all gone. Don't know which way the smoke went, this way or went that way. I just decided to go this way. And I'm walking point, and I'm just an unbelievably lucky person I am. I looked down, came up to an area, and there was a trench. It was more like an irrigation ditch for the rice fields. And I kind of looked there, and then as it went from the irrigation ditch, go down, go up, and all of a sudden I seen the trail now turns to the right as complete vegetation. So I told Larry White, I said, Larry, stay right here. I'm going back down the trail, and I'm going to find John Madonich, who has a radio, to call in, ask Captain Gadillo, what, do you want us to keep on searching? Now we're spread like 15 meters apart, like I said. I get back to the last man in my squad, and all of a sudden, everything just opened up. The rifle, machine gun fire, like crazy. I ran back down the trail. I ran into the ditch. I ran around the corner. Getting around the corner, I ran smack into Torrance. And he told me, he said, 3 of the guys are hit real bad and they can't get out. There's a bunker complex all around this place. I said, oh my God, my God, my God. So the other 4 of us, we fell into the trench. And then from there, it was just 8 hours of chaos. But at one time, I just said, I got to do this. I knew one thing. If I would have kept on walking point, and it would have been me that got hit, I knew it, because this is just the way we were. Somebody would have came and make an attempt to get us out. I just knew it. So it could be like the 2-hour mark now. And I told Madonich, John, I said, I'm going in. I'm going to try, one of the things I got to do is I got to find them, because the vegetation was so thick, and I didn't know actually how far they walked around that corner. So I told John, do what you can do. I'm leaving. And I didn't even take my weapon with me. I didn't. I just ran. I ran. I ran through the jungle. I ran through that heavy vegetation. I remember when I was running through that I remember my throat dried up. I remember my eyes watered. And I remember I thought my heart was just going to explode out of my chest. I was so scared. And all of a sudden, poof, there they are. All three of them. They're laying in a depression. And I slid in behind White. And I said, Larry, what's? He said, I'm shot. I think my back is broken. And I said, grab hold. I said, grab me behind the neck. Put your arms around my neck. I slid underneath him. Put your arms around my neck. And I crawled as fast as I could back to that trench. And then next time I got Hernandez. Next time I got Bush. And Bush was the tallest guy in the company. When he came in on the 23rd of April, he was like 6'6", I'm like 5'5". I looked at him, I thought, oh my God, how did they ever put you in the infantry? I said, you will not last through, you will not last 360, I thought that, I didn't tell him, I said, you will not last 365 days out here. The infantry is for little people. So he lasted 2. But then after that, this could have been the 5-hour mark. After that is just, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Mentally, I knew what I was going to do, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I was going to go back, I was going to go into that bunker complex. And I had 2 things, 1 or 2 things was going to happen. The one, I'm coming, but that's not, 1 or 2 things going to happen is either I'm going down or you're going down. I'm not going to be a POW, and I'm not taking no POWs. That's the only options we have, and that's it. And I just went into the bunker complex with hand grenades and my M16. In fact, a lot of people, they thought I was crazy, and I thought I was not crazy. But I used to carry a sandbag full of hand grenades on the back of my harness, my web gear, and I just thought, someday I might be able to use them. So I loaded up a sandbag full of hand grenades, and I had a couple in my pouch. And I had that day I had 42 magazines of M16 rounds. Bandoliers. And I would think, this is a guess, I would think in the first 4 hours, I may have had like 3 grenades left. And I may have had 2 or 3 magazines of M16 rounds. It was so chaotic. It's like, whew, you just don't know. And we'd call in Cam Gadillo finally, and when he got there into the trench, and we'd pull back, and he'd call in these bombs, and these bombs would come in, and they'd be exploding all over that area, that area where the bunkers were at. And each time, Cam Gadillo would tell me, he says, okay, this is the last bomb coming out. And I'm telling you, I was on my way, running back as fast as I could down that trench to get where I'm right across from where I started to begin with. And we couldn't penetrate their defense. And all of a sudden, oh my God, back we go again. And they dropping bombs, and they dropping napalm. And there's artillery and gunships and everything just pouring into that area. And by golly, we get back in there the second time, they're still there. I don't even know how they survived. How did they survive that napalm? How did they survive all those bombs? But them bombs blew stuff all over the place. and you could actually see some of the bunkers. And I remember, I remember one time when I came back and I got across about 25 or 30 meters in front of me was a bunker that was exposed. And in that bunker was a North Vietnamese standing there looking straight at me and laughing at me. I mean, just laughing. And I'm going like, he was stunned. You could see it on his face. He was absolutely stunned by those bombs, which I would be too. I mean, it's a hell of a way to walk through our bombs and everything. It's a hell of a way to go to work. But anyways, he was laughing, smiling at me, you know. And so I got my M16. I put that baby on rock and roll, and I blasted right through that opening in that bunker. And I said to myself, sucker, you are not gonna laugh at me no more. 5 seconds went by. I fired the whole magazine, 18 rounds, just right into that bunker. I ain't gonna laugh at me no more. What happened was, I waited for 5 seconds, something like that, and I reached down and got me another magazine, popped it into my weapon, and I looked up. By golly, I missed him. I missed him. A whole magazine, and I missed him. It was because the guy just disappeared when I fired. I thought I got him. So, but then after, I don't know, could have got at the 6-7 hour mark, I was with Cap Godillo. And I remember telling Cap Godillo, sir, we are going to have to make an infantry charge, because if we don't, we only got an hour and a half so of light, and North Vietnamese Viet Cong controlled the dark. And I said, if it gets dark, they're gone. They're gone. Everybody's gone. Even their dead are gone. And so that's when I got some grenades. I got some grenades from Camp Godillo and just went up into the bunker complex and just started throwing them around. One time playing pitch and catch. So, okay, that's, I guess.
Okay, you mentioned pitch and catch. Can you explain what you meant when you played pitch and catch with the enemy?
What had happened was this one bunker, I mean, it was just pouring stuff out. And I had the grenades. I had grenades in my pocket. I told Cap Godillo, I can take it. I know where some bunkers are. That was just one of them. I can take them. All I need is some more grenades. So he got some of the guys that is the little command group. You take this one, you take that one, you take it. I put them in my pockets. And then this one bunker was really pouring it out. So I had a grenade, and what I did is I came from it was the side, like the side of the bunker, and I took a hand grenade, I pulled the pin, and I threw the hand grenade, bam, right into the opening. And then all of a sudden, I happened to look around, and wow, there it is, it's back out over here. And it's one of our grenades. It's not one of them cheap little Chinese grenades. This is one that does some damage. And it's, oh my God, there's that grenade. And I know from training that one of our grenades, you know, once you pull the pin and release the handle, I mean, you can keep the handle, as long as you keep that handle tight, you can go to the basketball game. nothing's going to happen. Once you release that handle, that grenade's going to explode in 3 to 5 seconds. And it's got a kill ratio of about 25 meters. Anyway, there comes that grenade. So I dove for cover. I mean, I dove. I thought, oh my God. I dove on the ground, put my hands over my face, and I had my steel pot on. And I thought, well, if you're going to get it, you're going to get it right smack. And so, the grenade exploded. I could not hear. Nothing. My ears were nothing. I was so full of dirt and debris that, I bet you, I had so much stuff on me that I was so camouflaged, I bet you nobody even knew I was there. I had so much crap all over me. And I picked myself out of that crap. And then my ears, they were ringing so badly. I couldn't hear nothing. So what I did, I then took and pulled the pins on 2 grenades. This time, once I pulled them pins, held them handles, this time I counted 1001, 1002. Pew! I released the handles, and whoa! I ran by the opening, threw one grenade here, one grenade there. I mean, the opening was 6 foot long. Pew! I kept on running, and I was like 2 steps beyond that bunker when, boom! It exploded, and that was actually, that's when just about everything ended. I mean, there were some later on things that happened, crazy things happened. I had to go through the jungle finding a lost platoon after it got dark outside. They were lost. Camp Cadell calls me up. I'm looking for Specialist Stumpf. I heard it on somebody else's radio. Camp Cadell's looking for Specialist Stumpf. So I go over there and find out where he's at. They pulled back into a perimeter. I go back over by him, and Captain Bedell told me, he said, look, he said, we've got a platoon that's lost. They have no idea where we're at. And he says, can you go find them? Oh, you talk about fear is dark. And I thought, Captain Cadillo, you absolutely got to be. What? Thought for a few seconds and thought, yeah, he picked the right guy, because I knew where the bunkers were, I knew where the trenches were, and all I knew is that the platoon was in a trench, or in a ditch, or whatever the heck it was. So anyways, off I go. I took 3 guys with me, no radio. I called the platoon leader earlier, and I said, look, I'm coming towards you. Put somebody up front that's not going to get jumpy and start shooting. And I grabbed 4 people with me. I ain't got a clue if I grabbed 4 lieutenants. I said, you come with me. It's dark outside. I said, put your weapons on rock and roll. I'll take point. Here's the mission. And we're walking, and I'm in the trench, and you see the smoldering of these bunkers, but you don't know if anybody's in them. You know, I have no idea where they went. And plus, I didn't know here, the biggest thing I feared was that I would be walking this way, and they would be coming this way in opposite trenches, and we'd get in a firefight with each other. And I thought, oh my God. I mean, my heart was pounding because I got to be able to think of what the hell's going on. So anyways, I'm going along, and all of a sudden, shh, told everybody be quiet. Pass back. I heard something. And all of a sudden, it's getting closer. And Americans are terrible. They are terrible when it comes to camouflage and being quiet. I heard this platoon at least 30 meters away. Clang, 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 on their equipment, clang, clang, clang. And so, as they came in closer, I mean, I'm 99% sure it was them. I mean, Viet Cong and North Vietnamese don't bop along like we just bop along. I made out the steel pot. I could see a steel pot in the moon. That it was a steel pot. So I said to the guy, and I said, I hope he doesn't open up. And I knew I wasn't gonna. I said, as he got maybe 5 meters away, I asked him if he was an American. I didn't know what the hell I had to ask him. You know, and we never had no passwords like they do in basic training and all this other crap. We didn't have any passwords in Vietnam. Well, now we're in the jungle, we didn't. So anyways, I asked him if he was American. Yes, yeah, yes, I am. Follow me. So we got him back to the perimeter, and it ended. That was it. No more excitement. But I was terribly exhausted. I laid there. I remember smoking a cigarette, laying on the ground, thinking, I must have ran. I'll bet money that, and I was in tremendous shape. I bet you I ran because I was always on the move. I'll bet I ran something like 15 miles in that little area, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, up and down, up and down. And I ran a lot. My uniform was, I was soaked. I was terribly exhausted. And I remember laying on the ground, smoking a cigarette, looking up, saying, "You can go ahead and come and get me right now, because I have no desire, no ability to fight anymore." Even though mentally I was thinking that, but I also knew, bring it on. I'll be ready.
So you were a Spec 4 at this time, in E4,
Yeah.
and you were holding the position of an E6.
Yes,
normally.
that's a staff sergeant position. That's a career guy. It's a career guy. But hey, everybody else was killed, wounded, rotated. Lieutenant Murphy asked me, I'm private first class. And then that was October. In January 1st, I got promoted to E4. And then the day of the action, I was an E4, even though if you look at the citation, it says Staff Sergeant, then Specialist 4, because that's what I was. I wasn't a Staff Sergeant. I was a Specialist 4. That means a lot to me, because too many times, the higher you go in the military, the more awards you get, and you don't have to do a goddamn thing. Spec 4s don't get that. They got to do something. Spec 4s, PFCs, they got to do something to get their awards. They don't just get a free shot.
Okay, so you brought those 3 guys back to the trench.
Yes.
Was there an issue when the medevac came in to pick them up?
Oh, yes, there was. We had to get them out of there. And what had happened is that Majanich told me this. He said, oh my God, we got to get, because he had, I want to say 1 or 2 of his guys were then wounded from the trench. And he said, we got to get these guys out of here. They lost a lot of blood. And see, we didn't have no medic. You know, in the trench, it was like, hey, you bandage me, I'll bandage you. And that's just it. But most of them, White, Hernandez, and Bush, most of them, they couldn't fire back too much. They could, it was like right here. And so I told Madaj, I said, I remember a rice paddy that we can turn into a landing zone to bring in helicopters, medevac. And so I said, it's about 30 or 40 meters away. Go back down the trail that way. So they started all moving out. Okay, there was 14 of us. Okay, 13 started going back. And what I did, I said, John, you guys go. I will stay here. I'll work my way back, and I'll cover the rear. And so, off they go, and off I started going back. until I got back. But Donich told me, he told me this, and this before I even got back. He said a helicopter had come in and they hit, an RPG hit it. But I don't understand where the heck it went to. I didn't see no helicopter when I got back there. So I don't, tell you the truth, I don't know, because I didn't see it. If an RPG hit it, you'd think I'd see part of it laying in the rice paddy. Maybe it was small arms fire. But he said it got hit. So anyways, called in another one. I happened to be there. A helicopter landed, and we were loading guys up onto the helicopter, and whoosh, the whole windshield of the helicopter just crashed. And it was hit by small arms fire. Boosh! They took off like right away. They left their door gunner was on the ground helping to load the wounded, and they took off so fast they left the door gunner. And I remember I told the door gunner, I said, you're in the infantry now. We worked our way back to the trench again. And I'm telling you what, that guy would not even, he was so close to the ground, the door gunner, he was not even going to peek his head up. No possible way. I ain't going to fire at nobody. I'm going to stay right down here. And of course, you know, the aviation, they're just like the infantry. You know, we're going to come and rescue you. So another chopper came in, got the guy back on his helicopter, and off they go. So that was basically it.
So the 3 guys that you rescued, they survived this incident, correct?
To my knowledge. I know White did.
Okay.
And normally, well, no, not normally, but this is the way it was. If somebody was KIA, killed in action, we would know the next day. We would know the next day that Brown didn't make it. We'd know. If it got to be more than a few weeks, well, if it was Brown, he's in Japan recovering and on to Germany or wherever, some hospital somewhere. But if it was a KIA, we'd know about it within 24 hours. So to my knowledge, no. And for sure, I know White didn't. White survived because I got together with him later on.
Okay. So now this event has occurred. What was the rest of your tour, your first tour of Vietnam, like for you?
Same thing. Nothing happened. I mean, nothing happened more than normal. We were in Quang Ngai province, and many booby traps, and it just went on. It just went on to well, let me back this up a little bit. About a week, 10 days after this action, I was called back to a fire base, and I was presented the Silver Star. And I thought, wow, Silver Star. And I'm thinking, I don't know about Silver Star. I says, you know what, you do what you do because the job gets done. And E3s and E4s, they're not into this awards thing like NCOs and officers. They got to have that for their record, and gee, they're giving me a Silver Star. And then General Lam from the South Vietnamese Army gave me the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with the Gold Star. I'm thinking, wow, I mean, I don't know nothing about the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, but I knew the Silver Star is the third highest combat award. So I thought, wow, that's pretty good. So I put them both in my rucksack, and that was it. Just carried them in my rucksack. And so then I heard some mumbling going on. Maybe 2 weeks later, there was mumbling going on amongst the people out there in my company and in my platoon that I had been recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross, number 2. And so all of that was like, I don't care about awards. I really don't. I never did in my whole military career. But anyways, I had all of a sudden, wow. Now, backing up. After this action, about 10 days later, I'm promoted to buck sergeant, E5. Then, it was about a week later, I'm promoted to E6, staff sergeant. I remember telling Sergeant Wells, he was a career E7. I said, Sergeant Wells, if I stay here for another 5 months, I'll be an E14 by the time I leave. I'm just joking with him. But I got promoted to E6. That's how I made E6. And, it was a squad leader position. And so I got promoted to E5 and 6. It was so fast, within about 3 weeks of each other. And then there was mumbling going on about the Medal of Honor. So August or the end of July, I was sent back to base camp in Pleiku. I was told that a recommendation for the Medal of Honor has been forwarded out of Vietnam. I never think of that stuff. I just go like, okay. And I just went with the grain. Okay, I'm back at base camp now. Boop, 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 boop. Well, they didn't want me in the field because they didn't want me killed. What if he gets killed? So anyways, I go back, finish up my tour. I go back home thinking, none. I ex-Vietnam all out of my head, all out of my experiences, all thoughts of a Silver Star and a Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with Gold Star. And so I never really thought much more of that until about April of '68, when my mom wakes me up, not to play baseball. She wakes me up and says, hey, somebody called from Fort Sheridan, Illinois. They're flying a plane up to pick you up tomorrow because they want to fly you back to Fort Sheridan to get your picture taken because you're going to Washington to receive the Medal of Honor? I'm going like, whoa, this is heavy duty stuff. So the next day that they called back, can Ken go out and get a picture taken because we can't fly out of Chicago because we're all fogged in. So I went down and got a picture taken, sent it back to whomever it was in Fort Sheridan. They forwarded it on to D.C. And in September 19th of 1968, I was standing in right in the White House. Met the President Johnson in the Oval Office. It was like, wow, I'm kind of like, damn, I can't believe I'm here. For one, I don't believe I did anything, that was above and beyond, say you did something above and beyond the call of duty. No, I didn't. I think I did my duty. But anyways, got the one cute, I love this story, that happened in the Oval Office. There was 5 of us, all Army. They got the Medal of Honor that day. We each had an aide. Like I had a captain and a staff sergeant were my aides for my family that were invited to Washington. My mother, my father, my brothers, and my sisters, their husbands, their wives, were all invited to the ceremony. And it was 5 of us. And we stayed at the Madison Hotel, and man, everything in the hotel was free. Signed medal on the tab. Oh my God, we grew up poor. It's like signed metal on the tab. It's like we had black limousines, and it's like they take us to dinner and order what you want. So you want to have oysters, have oysters. You want to have whatever, whatever. I said, wow. But we're in the Oval Office. Now it's really crazy. All of these generals and admirals, they kind of got into the Oval Office because, you know, they were all standing around really looking pretty, like they're really meeting, you know, like they're important, even though us little guys we were all enlisted guys, you know, none of them assholes are important to us. Anyway, General Westmoreland, who's now the Chief of Staff of the Army, he said, where are your hats? We were in our dress, in our greens. Oh, sir, we were told leave them back at the hotel. Because we thought we were told the ceremony was going to be inside the White House. Actually, the ceremony was outside on the White House lawn. Westmoreland told these 1 stars, 2 stars, these admirals, go out into the audience. There was a big audience out there. Go out into the audience and bring back a bunch of enlisted man hats. Oh, 3 of us. The Keller, Wright, and myself, we were out of the military. We were just young. We put in our 2 years or whatever. We just laughed we said, oh my God, look at the general. He got to go out and get our hats. And we giggled and giggled and giggled. And I tell you, they were all standing around in the Oval Office looking like they're really important. And I don't know, to us, they weren't important at all. So anyway, the little story about the hat and ceremony.
Okay, so now you've received your Medal of
Medal
Honor,
of Honor.
and you're out.
I'm out.
You're a civilian.
I'm already a civilian. I've been a civilian since September of '67.
So
Now it's September of '68.
So you've been out for a year.
Yep,
You went back in.
I went back in. Actually, I was going to go back in. And somewhere around February of '68, I always liked the military. But when I came back from Vietnam, my 2 years were up, I went back to my old job in a factory, publishing company. But I really did enjoy the military, so I went down to see a recruiter. And I asked him, I said, I would like to go back into the Army. Could I, this is before I knew anything about the Medal of Honor, could I get my rank back? I got out of the Army, I was a staff sergeant, E6. So he called me up and, I don't know, maybe 10 days later. And he told me that, oh, if you go back in the Army, you're going to have to go back in as an E4. I'm like, okay, well, let me think it over. So a week or maybe 2 weeks at the most, later, I get this buzz about the Medal of Honor. So then I thought, I'll just wait and see what happens. So I got the Medal of Honor. And while there in Washington, there was this colonel that said, hey, you know, there's 3 of us, Keller, Wright, and myself, that were not in the military. And he said, hey, any of you guys want to come back in the military, let me know, here's my card. And so I thought, you know, I like the military. And I also, working in the mill, I remember I was working in a printing company in the press room, and all that paper dust and all that smell of you know, some of the stuff that they used to clean plates and crap with. And I remember I seen 3 guys that had about 30 years in the mill. They were coming back from a break area, coming back towards me, and they were all kind of like hunched over. And I thought, oh, it's either 40, they got 10 more years, it's either 40 years of this or 20 years in the Army. And I liked the Army to begin with. Bam, that was it. I said, I'm going back in the Army. That was, again, before I received the medal. But knowing the guy, or the colonel, I got a hold of him a week later, and I said, you know, I'd like to come back in the military. and I want to know, can I get my rank back? And also, that's where the recruiting duty came in, and I came here, which was by far the biggest mistake I ever made in my life, was to come on recruiting duty here. Nothing against the people, but against recruiting duty people. So, way back when, it probably changed now. They're just plain liars, just lied. So, anyways, I got a call from the main recruiting station in Milwaukee, from the sergeant major, and he said, "Mr. Stumpf." I said, "Whoa, somebody's calling me Mister." I got a call from Washington, D.C. "Yes, you can come back in the Army, and yes, you will get your rank back, Staff Sergeant, and yes, you'll get recruiting duty." And he said, we'll give you recruiting duty any place you want. If you don't want one of them places, Mr. Stumpf, where we have nobody, we'll open up any place you want in the state of Wisconsin. I said, holy shit. I said, so the Stevens Point was one of the ones that were open, so I took it. I said, it's Stevens Point. But I think I told you the story about what happened when I came out here. It wasn't good. And I was out here for like 9 months. Then I volunteered to go back to Vietnam. So, and I spent 18 months back in the Central Highlands again, this time as a squad leader and platoon sergeant of an Arrow Rifle Platoon, Delta Troop, 1st 10th Cav, the Buffalo Soldiers. Awesome.
A lot of history to the Buffalo Soldiers.
I know, way back when. Yeah.
So how many years did you spend in the military?
29. I had 29 years. No, now see, I gotta clarify that just a tad bit. I got drafted in September of 1965. I got out of the Army in September of 1994, which would be 29 years. But I had a break for 1 year and 3 months. But in the military, that counts. When I was out of my draft, I had a 6-year obligation, which we all did. I had 2 years, and when we were put in 4 years in the reserves, which coming back from Vietnam, we didn't have to go to reserve meetings because we had enough of them slobs that are already in there anyways that were dodging the draft. In fact, people ask me is, well, what do you think about guys that went to Canada? I said, I've got no problem with people that went to Canada to avoid the draft. They made a stand. I ain't got nothing against Muhammad Ali. He made a stand, and he suffered for it. 3 years he couldn't fight. And I said, I have no problems with people sticking up for their beliefs. But I said, the biggest draft dodgers were the men who joined the National Guard and Reserve. They were the ones that really avoided the draft, and some of the times people say, well, if we'd have called up, we'd have went. Like, screw you. Your unit ain't gonna get called up to go to Vietnam. Even though some units did go, National Guard and Reserve units, some were in Vietnam, some were killed in Vietnam. But the majority, no. You knew somebody that knew somebody that got you hooked up with the draft board, and you got a deferment, where others, they didn't know somebody that knows somebody. They weren't, their daddy wasn't CEO of something or knew somebody that was CEO. And so, but they were the biggest draft dodgers, the most biggest. And and a lot of them ended up staying in, and they're retired right now. They're retired from the National Guard and Reserve. They're drawing paychecks, but they never did go to Vietnam.
So other than Vietnam and Wisconsin Rapids and Stevens Point, where else were you stationed in the military?
Oh, that's it. That's pretty simple. Let's start out with basic training. Fort Leonard, Missouri, Fort Ord, California, Vietnam. Then recruiting duty, Wisconsin. Then Vietnam again. Then Fort Ben Harrison, Indiana. Then Hawaii, 25th Division, my old division. Hawaii, then Fort Ord, California, Fort Carson, Colorado, Germany, then I went to Fort Sheridan, Illinois, and my last 3 years were at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, 29 years. Vinny. So I didn't go to a lot of places, not like the Air Force does or Navy does. Navy goes everywhere. But I got to see a little bit. I got to see a little bit of the world and learn a lot about people and things.
Now, we've had discussions off air. Because you're a Medal of Honor recipient, you're invited to all the inaugurations.
All of them, yep. The first one, and in fact, right after I got the medal in September 1968, all of a sudden, wow, I get this letter in the mail. You and a guest are invited to the inauguration of President Nixon. Wow. The inauguration. Now, I hadn't married my wife. She was my girlfriend. We got married December of 68. So January of 69, my wife and I were at Nixon's first inauguration. And I've gone to every inauguration since then. And I've taken all my kids, all been to inaugurations. And I just, whoever I decide you want to go to inauguration. I mean, the first time I went, I was like awed by it. All that glamour and everything. It's like, whoa, this little boy that grew up in Menasha, Wisconsin, he never seen nothing like this before. So, yeah, all inaugurations, went to all.
Are there any other events or ceremonies that, because of the Medal of Honor, you attend?
We have a convention every year. This year, in October, it's going to be in Minneapolis, St. Paul. We get together every year, and just get together and kind of enjoy the company of the recipients and their families, and it's always a pretty exciting time, and like Minneapolis, St. Paul, the cities that we get invited to, I mean, just an outpouring of thank yous to the Medal of Honor recipients. It's like, wow. So I try to, I try to keep that in, gosh, you guys don't have to call me sir, call me Ken. I'm Ken, I'm very simple. But along the line, I've just met some awesome people, and people to me they don't have to be people that are up here. People down here are people too. I don't need to hang around sitting with the generals, whatever. Put me down there at the spec forward table. That's who I want to be around. Nothing against generals. It's just that they suck.
How many Medal of Honor recipients are still alive?
77 as of today. 77.
Quite an honorable group.
It's a very small group. Very small group. But as time goes on, in fact, I read this 4, 5, 6 months ago, that President Obama, but anyways, they were calling to get 1,200 awards for look at them again for possible upgrade. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to get upgraded to the Medal of Honor, but and it's awards they're opinions. That's all they are. Somebody thought I did something above and beyond the call of duty, and other people would look at that. The award system is terribly broke in the military, terribly broke. And what one might say or read and say, wow, that guy should have got the Medal of Honor. Or another person will read it, or a board would look at it and say, well, I think he should get a Bronze Star with V. And citation's so generic. They don't tell what happened And in my case, 8 hours. How do you tell 8 hours into, here's what the unit he served with, and at the bottom it says, reflects great credit upon himself and the United States Army, and apple pie, and whatever the heck it is. And in between, it's got that little blip. Okay, here's what we did. But that took a long, long time. But no, there's lots. There's lots of people. That's why I'm so proud. I'm so proud that I can say that I was a specialist 4, not staff sergeant. I was not a staff sergeant when this action happened. I was a spec 4. But Camp Godillo, John Madonich, and Torrance, they have to have, I believe it is, 3 eyewitnesses to what you did. And those were the 3. And unfortunately, Camp Godillo, I think it might have been his last act on this earth, is writing me up for the Medal of Honor. Because when he came back out into the jungle, he went back there one day, and he got shot through the head. And he was right next to me. And it's crazy. How do things happen? How do things happen like that? I was so darn lucky. I was absolutely lucky for the BS that I pulled in Vietnam. I chased them suckers down until I killed them. That's it. You're going down or I'm going down. No other options left.
So were you ever injured in the military that you got the Purple Heart?
Yes, I was. You know what? The kids love it. Because the kids always ask me when I come to their school, were you ever wounded? And I said, oh yes, I was. Remember the movie Forrest Gump? Remember where he was wounded? He was wounded in the buttocks. That's where I was wounded. I took some grenade shrapnel. The guy was lucky. I killed him later. I killed that sucker later. I said, you pop up one more time. He popped up, and I was only about 6 feet away from when he popped up. And I seen him throw the grenade. And I turned around. Oh! I turned around and it exploded and blew some shrapnel in my butt. And then I said, Bubba, now, because it was a big rocks, and I was actually looking at this big old rock over here. And see, I was told that we seen somebody by the rocks. And so I looked up that old big old rock over here. I mean, gigantic boulder, bigger than this room. And another one over here, and there was like a little opening in between. So I went up the opening. And I was looking over here, and I was looking over there, and I was going up that opening, and all of a sudden, ooh, there the guy is. And so grenade went off, and that was it. And so I said, this time I'm not looking over there. I'm not looking over there. And I was actually a platoon sergeant with Delta Troop 1st 10th Cav. And I took one of my teams, and I said, Sergeant, take one of your teams. A platoon, a squad is divided into 2 fire teams. But most of the time, we didn't have fire teams. We didn't have enough people. I had enough people. Take one of your fire teams. You take one, you go around that big boulder that way. You go around that way. But listen what I got to say. Be very, very careful when you come around the corner that you don't shoot at each other. And I'm coming up the middle. And so I did. I went up the middle, and the guy popped up, and I blew his damn head right off. Blew it way out. 18 magazines of M16, 18 rounds M16, or 18, yeah, M16 rounds. And I just blew his head right off. And then Sergeant Beck, who was coming around to the right. He wounded a soldier over there, and the soldier wounded him. Slightly wounded him. So we had a POW. It was a crazy day. We had a POW wounded, and I was now the platoon sergeant. So we didn't have a platoon leader, a lieutenant. And what had happened was we were inserted, air rifle platoon, it was good duty. You flew into all your combat. You didn't walk, you flew into it. That's what the air rifle platoon does. We're a reactionary force for anybody that gets hit. Here we come. We got helicopters, we got gunships, we got everything. And so the highway was hit, we were inserted, and this action happened there. And then I told, and I have to stay in the middle to control my platoon. As a platoon sergeant, I'd be in the back. Platoon leader would be towards the front. But now I'm the platoon leader, so I'm in the middle trying to control my platoon on both sides of me. And so all of a sudden I hear, word got passed up to me that, oh, there's somebody's in a little slope by a tree. And I couldn't figure out, where are you talking about? And he was pointing to this guy. He was pointing to this guy. And well, first of all, I told the squad leader, I told him, you're going to take that wounded guy, you put him up front. Now that's against Geneva Conventions, but tough shit. I said, if we get hit again, you kill him first. You just kill him. And so all of a sudden, I get the word, holy shit, there's somebody, the medic, spotted somebody up that little hill sitting by the tree. And all of a sudden, where? I can't see him. All of a sudden, I spotted him. He's sitting by the tree, and he's got an RPG. So I'm yelling to him. I'm going, Lade, come here. And that's how you do, Lade, and we go like this, come here. They go upside, the Vietnamese go the other way. Anyways, I'm yelling, Lade, get over here. And he ain't coming over by me. And so finally I yell, you motherfucker, get over here. And he's pulled up his RPG, and I wasted him. Out of the rocks came about 9 other Viet Cong. They killed my radio. What's the name? Bench. How things got crazy. Bench was my RTO. My platoon sergeant, he was platoon sergeant RTO. Because I was the platoon leader that day, I gave the platoon leader's RTO to I said, you be the platoon sergeant, I'll be the platoon leader. And I kept Bench. And they came out of there, and the first volley, Bench got hit right in the head and killed. And then they just come pouring out of there, but Jorkland did an outstanding job. And we had the high ground. We gained the high ground on him. The dude up there, he was wasted. I mean, he didn't get his RPG off, not even close. And within about 30 minutes, it was over. But you know what? Strange. When we got ready to move out again. I always remember what I told this sergeant, and I see his face, I can't remember his name. I told him, if we get hit again, you kill him. Just kill him. The damn thing, if he did not kill him. He did not kill him. And I went up to the sergeant and I said, thank you. I'm glad. This was 1971. I'm glad that you did not kill him. I said, nobody, after Bench was killed, we're going home to begin with. We're pulling out of Vietnam. I said, nobody needs to die in this war, no more. It's over. Let it be over. So, got 'em. We were supposed to meet up with some tracks, Army personnel carriers, and take us out to get extracted from a landing zone. And I remember going over there, and this one guy on a track, I'm not, because we had the wounded Viet Cong, I'm not putting no wounded Viet Cong on my track. So I went over to the lieutenant who was in charge of the personnel carriers. I said, sir, here's what's going to happen. Either he rides, or, if he don't ride, we're not riding. You either let him on, and then we'll get on. But this guy says he is not going to let any enemy on his. That's fine. Somebody give this guy a ride. So Lieutenant gave him an order. Put him on your vehicle. So put him on the vehicle. We went maybe 45 minutes to an hour through the jungle. Came to a landing zone. We're on our way. We're on our way back to Anke, to our Camp Buffalo. So I think I got some of that right.
One final story I'd like you to share with everybody. You have a street named after you.
Oh God, yeah. I was at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii, home of the 25th Division, the unit that I was awarded the Medal of Honor with. And see, what had happened, here's how it happened to begin with, and I didn't tell this story. In 1967, the 3rd Brigade 25th Division out of Pleiku became 3rd Brigade 4th Division. When 4th Division came to Vietnam, they put their division headquarters was in Pleiku. Division headquarters for 25th Division was down in Dao Tiang and Cu Chi, with the 3rd Brigade up north, my brigade, up north in the Central Highlands. When 4th Division came to Vietnam, they put their headquarters in Pleiku. And then we swapped brigades. Our brigade became 3rd Brigade 4th Division. One of the 4th Division's brigades become 3rd Brigade 25th. But just dealing with us. August of 67, we are now 3rd Brigade 4th Division. Everything's over with. Back, I'm in Hawaii with the 25th Division, which says on my citation, 25th Division. I get a letter in the mail from the commanding general of the 4th Infantry Division, the division I ended up with that letter and a photo. I've got some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is we named a street right after you at Fort Carson, Colorado. 4th Division. You know, the bad news is that we found out after we named it that you were still alive. And it's against regulations, military regulations, but they said we're going to leave it. And then see, later on I ended up actually living only about 5 houses from Stump Street, whatever it was. So anyways, I have actually at home, I have 2 citations. One, and I was going to write to the 4th Division headquarters, 4th Division Association. I said, I have got to be the most unique soldier in this respect. I am claimed by 2 divisions, the 25th and 4th. I have a citation that says 4th Division on it. The 4th Division was the ones that actually forwarded the recommendation down to MACV headquarters in Saigon for, what do you guys want to do with this? And so at the 4th Division, actually, they were a division that, see, everything from the 3rd Brigade, 25th, everything was now 3rd Brigade, 4th, 3rd Brigade, 4th. And so I have 2 citations. One, and that's where this thing came up with the 4th Division. They thought that I was their soldier, their Medal of Honor recipient, and which I'm not either way. I claimed the 25th because the 25th was the unit I was with at the time. The 4th Division was actually the unit that forwarded the recommendation out of Pleiku, Vietnam, down to Saigon. And then General Westmoreland and his group, they figured out whether we want to kick it back. And then I told you what later on, I got pulled out of the field, and then, got home, went on with my life. So that's where the and it still is. If you go to Fort Carson, Colorado, Stump Road or Stump Street is still there. I mean, it's still there. Some people come sometime tell me about it. I was at Fort Carson, Colorado, and I seen yeah. And I think I told you a story about when I got there. Later on, I got there at Fort Carson, and I was checking into housing. And a lady said, she looked at my uniform. I said, Stump on it. She says, "Oh my God, we've got a road, we got a street named after Stump." Normally, I don't tell anybody who I am or what I did, because it doesn't make any difference to me. I tell you what, my name, that's all people need to know. And what I told her, I says, that street was named after me. "Oh my God, do you want to live on it?" "No." I said, "You kidding me?" I said, "You think I'm going to be living on my street, and I get these NCOs calling me up, they want me to deal with the potholes on my street?" I said, "Hell no." So I lived on Molnar Street. There was the guy that got the Medal of Honor in Vietnam and was killed from the 4th Division.
Anything else you'd like to let our viewers know about your military service?
Boy, I'm telling you what, I didn't know I could talk so much. I said, normally I in Toma, probably 7 or 8 people know who I am. Know me, just know me, Ken Stumpf, let alone the Medal of Honor. I keep a very, 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 very low profile. And a lot of it is because I just like doing that. When I coming here, it was like I'm glad I came and I got to meet some great people. I know I'm going to meet some more great people, but I keep a very low profile in Toma. I'm not sure how Bill actually got my name, but I did get a letter from him, and okay, I'll show up. So, but otherwise, I keep a low profile. I don't do much, and I don't know what else. I blabbered so much, I don't know what else to tell you. I probably have my son wants me to sit down with a tape recorder and tape things, and I've been asked, I don't know how many times I've been asked to write a book. Are you kidding me? I said, what a boring book that'll be. But I think I could, I think probably, if it isn't too long, I said, it might be kind of interesting. Not only my feelings, not only Vietnam or the military, but my feelings about what did my parents instill in me growing up? Live your life with honor and be kind, be respectful to every person you meet, and be honest. Them are 3 amongst lots of things that built my character, over the years. And I think that in a nutshell is, boy, if these young kids, if I could just say a couple things to them, maybe, just maybe, you might think about it before you steal the car or before you smoke the dope. Maybe.
Thank you for your service, Sergeant Major
Okay,
Stumpf.
thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good to be here.